Pacific Northwest and brought to you live and direct as a public service by Richfield. Tonight, our success story cameras have come to Paine Air Force Base to watch an Air Force Reserve in action. The weekend warriors of the air, flyers, mechanics, technicians, trained veterans all who keep their skills and their Air Force knowledge up to date, always poised for your protection. We have come to visit particularly the 17th Aerial Port Squadron and the 97th Troop Carrier Squadron, a detached squadron of the 349th Troop Carrier Wing of Hamilton Air Force Base, California. These are ready units, part of the vital Ready Reserve. As we have already intimated, they couldn't be ready if it weren't for the regular work of the maintenance crews here at the base. So let's follow up now on that part of the story.
And there are 5 of these all told, right?
5.
Friends, meet Captain Woodbury, the maintenance officer here for the 97th. Captain, just how many civilian personnel have you employed here?
We have 72 civilian personnel employed here at this time.
And how many different enlisted personnel in the reserves have you on the job?
We have 150 reservists for weekend activities.
Exactly what kind of work takes place here? It's pretty obvious, but just what do they do?
Well, they do maintenance of the C-119 type aircraft, such as pre-flighting the airplanes before flights so that they're ready and safe when the crews come to them. Also, post-flighting the airplane after 15 hours of flying time on it.
Is there a certain time when the entire airplane is gone over with a fine-tooth comb?
Right. 150 hours, they do the periodic inspections, which include going over the airplane from one end to the other, checking the systems all the way through, such as the landing gear, hydraulic systems, cables, engines, props, going completely through the airplane to make sure that it's safe for flight.
Obviously, a great deal of work takes place here to make sure that these airplanes are in fine flying condition, absolutely safe. Thanks, Captain.
In just about 1 minute, the 3 C-119s that took off at the beginning of our telecast will fly into position for their bundle drop. While this formation is approaching our number 3 camera, let's give you an inside-the-plane view of what this type of drop entails. With the paratainer drop, as it's called, as many as 20 200-pound bundles are dropped in series. Looking inside another C-119, you can see how these bundles are rigged on an overhead monorail. When it's time for the drop, a button will be pressed in the plane. The bundles will then go out, one right after the other, a motor pulling them forward into position for the drop. All of them will be out in a matter of seconds. This is another method that's used by the squadron for dropping certain supplies. Watch the lead plane in the formation now. The bundle should be released in just a few seconds.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, salvo.
Not only is this technique sometimes appropriate for supplying troops in the field, it may also be employed to advantage in some disaster and emergency relief missions. In this case, the bundles were dropped from an altitude of about 1,000 feet, and it looks as though they're going to land within inches of the target point.
Friends, meet Lieutenant Colonel Hugh Riley, the commander of the 17th Aerial Port Squadron here at the base. Colonel, exactly what part does the Port Squadron play in the activities that we've been discussing here tonight?
Well, I believe the viewers have already noted a couple of them, loading the Jeeps and also the drop of the Jeep just a few moments ago. We also support not only this squadron, but the 452nd at Long Beach, California, and the 349th at Hamilton. We have one of the 6 aerial port squadrons throughout the United States. During our encampment at Boise, Idaho, we will support over 100 aircraft.
I understand you have one other responsibility in addition to these, am I right?
Oh, that's true. We have a combat control team that goes down with the first wave of the infantry with portable communications equipment and also visual aids. Then we run an air terminal comparable to a portable, say, Seattle-Tacoma Airport. We can move it anywhere in the world and go into operation.
Real varied operations indeed. What might you be called upon to drop from time to time from the air?
Oh, possibly anything from maybe a 5-gallon can of gasoline to a 2.5-ton truck.
Is this part of your operation here, Colonel?
Yes, this is one of the essential parts of our operation because you can well imagine If a chute didn't open, it might impair the combat efficiency.
Thank you, Colonel.
Whatever the specialty of the officers and men in the Air Force Reserve, they belong to a top team in the nation's security program. The Reserve today is considered as one of the powers ensuring peace in the world. The reservist is, therefore, filling a double job for his community. First, he performs his normal civilian duties. Second, he volunteers his time and devotes his effort to strengthening the country's air arm, keeping abreast of today's and tomorrow's technical developments. Since air power effectiveness in time of crisis could spell the difference between survival and defeat, this second duty certainly deserves the support of the reservist family and his employer. And for men who can qualify, Air Force Reserve participation offers fine opportunities for training of permanent value and a better future for the individual. Men who have prior military service, who meet the high physical and mental standards of the Air Force, and who pass the standard Air Force qualification tests are eligible. Further details may be obtained from the Reserve here at Paine Air Force Base. But now for a personal view of the reservist side of the story, let's talk with one of our neighbors who belongs to the Air Force Reserve.
This is Airman First Class Bill Curran of the 97th. Bill, what's your permanent job in civilian life?
I'm a machine operator at Boeing Aircraft Company.
Where do you live, in Seattle?
Yes, I do.
How long have you been in the reserve?
I've been in the reserve about a year and a half now.
How did you happen to join the reserves in the first place?
Well, I was always interested in aircraft, and I do have a military obligation to fill, and my job at Boeing and everything just ties in with what I do out here.
I understand in addition to your regular job, you're going to school during the day, right?
Yes, that's correct. I go to school at Edison Tech from A&E school.
Do you find any problem in fulfilling all of your civilian occupation responsibilities, your schooling, and also maintaining your position in the reserve here?
Well, it's a pretty tight schedule, but my employer has been very good about any obligations that I've had to do out here, and the school has been very good about everything, too.
Have you had any other military time, Bill?
Yes, I was in the Army for 3 years as a helicopter mechanic, and I was also a paratrooper.
Our hats are off to you. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Today, many American firms have established definite policies of active support for the Air Force Reserve. In fact, this cooperation on the part of business and industry has done much to assure that the units and the individuals of the Reserve are ready now to face any challenge to our democratic traditions and rights. In many cases, employer cooperation has gone beyond giving the reservist military leave to go on summer encampments, special tours, and emergency duty. Companies often make up the difference between military and company pay. To help him in his efforts to build the reserve, they place at his disposal meeting rooms, projectors, and the like, and make available to this dedicated reservist space on the bulletin boards, in house organs, and company newspapers. In these and other ways, the business community is behind the reserve. And we of Success Story feel that this might be a good time for a special salute to all firms and individuals in our region who give the United States Air Force Reserve such wholehearted support. Not only the reservist himself, but also the community at large in this way is contributing mightily to the maintenance of a large top-grade human inventory that can and does expand the capabilities of the active force. As part of the national heritage, Americans have never wanted to live in an armed camp. Historically, we have had comparatively small standing military forces. Citizen soldiers filled the gap in the event of emergency. The only way to preserve this tradition in the modern age is with reserve forces. And with air power's increasing emphasis on a reservoir of highly skilled technicians, the Air Reserve plays a vital role in the defense team.
Friends, right now I'd like to have you meet Major William Hathaway, the operations officer of the 97th. Major Hathaway, tell us a little about the day-in, day-out operations of the Air Reserve, will you?
Well, Bill, of course, we must meet the same flying requirements that the active duty pilots do. That is a minimum of 100 hours a year. However, many of our pilots will fly as much as 150 to 200 hours a year. In addition to this, we have Operation Swift Lift, which is an additional commitment placed upon us by the Air Force. We transport engines to depot for overhaul and move the Air Guard and fighter squadrons to rocketry and gunnery school.
Swift lift, then, is an operation that you might be involved in any day of the week, right?
That is true, Bill.
What about the plans and the offering for the coming summer encampment?
Well, Bill, this year is our biggest move. We'll move all 12 of our aircraft and some 250 troops back to Indiana. We'll be participating in overwater missions from Texas to Florida, and also we'll be working with the Army in conjunction with maneuvers at Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
We owe you all a debt of appreciation for the fine job you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Major.
Looking at the sky again, we see how our flying reservists are doing on Operation Telecast. Here they make their landing approach. And we might say that this telecast in itself is a demonstration of operational skill and efficient coordination. There have been actually about half a dozen separate operations timed within seconds of the plan. Let's check in with radio now.
Red 2's under control. Roger. Everett 3 under control. Roger, SC.
The reservists are on schedule again, a demonstration of their ready status at all times. And this is important to all of us. Never before in our history has there been a time like today. Distance as well as time are short. And the defense of our country must be instantaneous and nationwide. The security of the United States is everyone's business. The squadrons of the Air Force Reserve operated under the Continental Air Command depend upon civilians who have developed Air Force skills. By training and practicing these skills with their Air Reserve units, they become an invaluable asset in overall security plans that today involve every individual citizen as never before. The reservist participates proudly and actively in the defense of his country and his home, just as he did while on active duty.
Just about brings us to the end of the line, friends. With me once again is Lieutenant Colonel T.G. Boy of the 97th. Colonel Boy, what kind of a future is there for a young man going into the Air Reserves?
We feel that the reserve program has a lot to offer any young man. We have a number of vacancies still in our unit, and if anyone that's interested in coming up to see us, we'd like to talk to them. We're particularly interested in veterans, but we'd like to talk to anybody who's interested in us.
Thank you, Colonel. Once again with me is Colonel Schaefer, the base commander here. Colonel, on behalf of Richfield and all the Success Story crew, we'd certainly like to thank you for your hospitality.
Bill, it was a pleasure to have Success Story here at Paine.
Friends, next week the Richfield Success Story cameras visit the Mary Tiller Company in Edmonds. We hope that each and every one of you will join us then. Till then, on behalf of Richfield, good night.
Success Story, an on-the-spot report, is brought to you by Richfield, makers of 100-plus boron super-octane gasoline and a complete line of years-ahead petroleum products. Next week at this same time, we'll bring you another success story with Bill Nielsen when our cameras will take you for a behind-the-scenes visit to Mary Tiller Corporation in Edmonds, a company who is a friend to all gardeners. Be sure to join us. Until then, this is Martin Tobin saying good night from Richfield.